What's going on, everyone? So, from Season 3, finale is tonight, and I cannot be more excited. So, I wanted to kind of just do, a general video, just kind of giving my thoughts and opinions on what I want to see, what I'm hopeful for, kind of setting up now that we have confirmation that from Season 4 is greenlit, although it's not expected to come out till 2026, which I have a ton of concerns with, which I might do another video like this, especially if people like just kind of like this free-flowing conversation video rather than like the theories and stuff. So please let me know if you like this type of video and you want me to kind of dive into more topics like this, and we can have discussions down in the comments. But definitely have some thoughts on that 2026 release date that I plan on talking about in a separate video, because I want to stick with the season finale, because tonight is a big moment, right? You've had all this stuff really building up and culminating into this final episode. Now, there is no way, zero, that they are answering all the questions that they have set up and established really throughout the entire season. I love this show, but they are starting to build up a habit of not answering questions and having more questions by a large margin than answers. Again, that is something that I hope kind of gets cleaned up and we start getting answers as we move forward into the seasons. And I'm not talking about like the general stuff. I'm not talking about what is from, where's from, what's the boy and why, right? There's certain things that like you want to let the story progress. That's fine. But like, and you've had a bunch of things that have kind of just gone nowhere, right? Like, the phone call that Jim was getting to, you had the Jasper storyline. And it's like, so you didn't need to go and spend 3 episodes building that up to do that. All you need to do is just talk to Tabitha, right? Like, there's just, hopefully this is something that we start getting resolving at some point. But I am excited to see how they kind of bring it into certain elements, like obviously Fatima and her pregnancy. I really hope that it doesn't get dragged into next season, right? Like the aftermath of like whatever ends up happening, sure, that's fine. Like if Fatima dies, even if she lives, you got to imagine there's going to be some level of trauma over that. So like I am excited to kind of see next season the aftermath and how does it impact Ellis? How does it impact Fatima? How does it impact Boyd? Right? There are things that I'm okay with kind of bleeding into next season, but like the overall storyline, you have built this entire season and in the back end of last season, right? So, okay, that's fine, but we need the payoff. And I really hope you get the payoff, right? And there's just so many other things like, okay, well, what's the creature running around Fromville's little village, right? What is the village? Where did the village come from, right? Like, the dungeon. Like, what's going on with Julie, right? Is that a portal? Is there time travel, right? Well, now if you open time travel, you just opened up Pandora's box and you run the risk of losing stakes, right? Like, there's a lot of, stakes in the sense of like, okay, well, now you can just retcon anything, right? Like Julie can just step into the portal and then, so are there limitations? Are there parameters, right? Like there's so many things, and this is what I'm talking about. So many questions beyond just like the normal stuff, beyond of like, why are people there? You have Tabitha. What really is going on with Tabitha? Is she the reincarnated version of Miranda? Is it just Fromville implanting memories and thoughts into her head, right? Like, what's going on with Jade, right? What's up with the notes, right? What's up with the symbol? Did he just, like, give up on the symbol because now he's focused on the notes? Okay, that's fine, but, like, is he ever going back to the symbol? Like, like, what's going on with Victor? Right? Like, the boy in white. Why is everything changing? Literally, I could spin here for probably 10 minutes just listing all the things just set up by this season. That's not counting season 2 and season 1 that have set up and not been answered. I'm talking about just this season. Things that have been set up and established that we have so many questions on. So many things that need resolved. There is zero chance you're resolving all of it. Again, that's fine, but I would like some clarification and at least some things to resolve. Like I said, the Fatima storyline, maybe you can at least kind of give us, that the idea of like, okay, what is up with Tabitha, right? No, maybe you finish the bottle note thing, right? Like there's certain things that I think you could sew up pretty quickly, right? Like, great example. I love that we finally got answers for Miranda, right? Like, how did she die? That was a question that we had for seasons now at this point, right? It was like, okay, well, yeah, she died, but how? Did she jump into the tree and fall like a rock? Like, did the monsters get her? Like, what's going on? And then boom, quick, easy, took 20 seconds, if that, to explain what happened to Miranda. Right? I prefer those kinds of things, right? I don't think everything needs to be crazy dragged on. But overall, with this episode, right, whatever you set up and establish, right, I hope that it doesn't kind of distract. Like, my concern is that at what point do you start having so many questions that you'll never get answers to and start creating new story plots that undermine previous plots, and now those plots are just never going to get answered because they've been replaced by these new plots, right? Like, things like that. Great example. They set up Boyd trapping a monster. What happened to that? I understand that there was a detour because Tabitha returned and all that stuff. Like, again, I understand, but okay, like, so you just gave up on that, right? And then they started doing, okay, well, now he's distracted with Ellis and all that stuff. You created a new story plot that undermined the other plot and basically became that neutral. Why did you set up the trap idea, period? Right? Like, you get my point? Like, that's my concern, is that do they do that going into this next season? Does this next episode kind of undermine things and story plots that they have built up to now, like, okay, well, here's the new thing, right? What is the dungeon monster, right? I mean, Martin continuously brings up the dungeon monster, right? Like, how did Martin know Julie? Who is Martin? Is Martin the bad guy? Is he the big bad? Is he doing a jigsaw thing from the original Saw, right? Like, again, like, there's so many things that need to be answered. And obviously that's part of the fun for the show, is the mystery element. But now we might have a year and some change hiatus, and you're going to build this story point and more likely than not end on a cliffhanger that we're all going to be like, what just happened, right? And then we got to wait a year, maybe as many as 2 years, right? We're waiting at least a year and a couple months, right? So I hope that they have a plan, right? Because you got to keep in mind, these are the same people that did Lost, right? And we saw with Lost, part of it was they didn't know how many seasons they were going to get. So they kind of just were like going as they went along. But we saw like Lost did that a lot. Where like they had, story points and things building that just led nowhere or just like never got resolved, or that you're just like, okay, like, so we're just, okay, sure, right? Like, here's the next point, right? So I hope that doesn't become a pattern with this show. Again, I love this show, but we can be honest about what's going on here, right? Like, we can be on, like, that's how you show improvement, right? If you're critical and you are honest about something and hold a show accountable, well, now that show, hopefully, if enough people do it, no one's just gonna listen. Oh, I'm nobody, right? Like, just some small YouTuber, but if enough people hold, the media content that we're getting accountable, then that's how changes get made, right? A lot of shows have changed things because audiences made it a point and people were like, oh, okay, you know what? They're right about this. Let's do that. So I want resolve in this season, right? I want some points to be resolved in this season. And I hope we get some of it. So that way we can kind of keep building and have this, there's going to be some big, grandiose thing, right? Maybe it's the monster in the village. Maybe it has to do with the dungeon. Maybe it has to do with, Tabitha or something, maybe she, instead of being in, the real world, maybe she went back in time or something like that. I don't know. Like, there's a million possible outcomes and scenarios that could play out, but can we get resolve on some of the other things? I'm not saying you have to answer everything because, again, you're not going to be able to, but I'd like to get some resolve. As far as, like, characters go and stuff, I imagine this is going to be very Fatima focused, probably very Tabitha and Jade focused, just because, one, it's what the trailer shows. Two, that's what this season has basically been about. And then I think Victor will kind of be sprinkled in. Because again, you follow this season, it's been very, Jade, Fatima, Tabitha, sprinkle in a little Boyd, sprinkle in a little Victor, right? Like, obviously Boyd is the guy, so he's, in front and center more often than not. But the story isn't really about him, right? The story is about all these other characters that are going on, and you have, Randall still going through his, just mental and stuff, right? Like there's so many different things that, you kind of need to focus on, that I hope we get some kind of better understanding and grasp of, is my hope. But I'm very excited to see how this season concludes. I'm very excited to see how they kind of, what do they conclude, how do they build up for next season, right? I'm not really a big fan of the hiatus in between, but don't worry, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. We'll hold it down, do live streams, do all that stuff. But again, let me know if you, like I said, this is kind of just like, it's not as structured of a video as like the theory videos and stuff like that, where like I have a clear point. This is just kind of just a general kind of conversation where I'm just kind of flushing out my thoughts. Do you kind of like this? Do you like this type of video? I'd really love to kind of hear your thoughts if you do, and kind of want me to do like more topics, right? Because I have like a list of topics that I'm like, oh man, it'd be really cool to kind of just like, hey, let me come on, just make a video. Doesn't need to be all fancy or anything. Just come on, express my points, kind of pour out my thoughts and then, of course, hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Do you like that, or do you prefer the more structured, like, hey, here's a principal point, and here's a kind of edited version of that? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are. Either way, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. And also let me know kind of what do you want to see in this upcoming episode. How do you want to see this conclude? Because, again, we're here. We're at the end. So, again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.